They watch you even when you think they aren't watching. They listen when you believe they're distracted. They absorb not just the words you speak, but the tone you use, the look in your eyes, the choices you make when no one else is applauding. Passing on values isn't a lecture. It's a legacy. It's carved in the silence of your sacrifices, in the restraint of your temper, in the dignity with which you treat those who can do nothing for you. Values are not taught. They are transferred, and the currency is how you live your life in the everyday moments that seem small but echo for generations. We speak often of inheritance, of property and possessions, of what we'll leave behind in our will. But the real wealth, the kind that builds character, that sustains nations, that echoes in eternity, is invisible. It's the courage to stand alone when everyone follows the crowd. It's the honesty to tell the truth when lies seem easier. It's the empathy to listen deeply, the humility to admit fault, the perseverance to keep going when quitting would be easier. These are not things you give by telling. These are things you pass on by being. A child sees you help a stranger without expecting anything back. That moment becomes a seed. A teenager hears you apologize sincerely, and respect becomes rooted. A young adult watches you forgive someone who wronged you, and they carry that blueprint into their own future relationships. Generational values are not proclaimed from stages. They're whispered through a life of consistency. We're raising more than children. We're raising someone's partner, someone's parent, someone's leader, someone's comfort in a time of need. Every word you choose, every reaction you have, every principle you uphold or break, that's not just parenting. That's legacy building. That's how civilizations thrive or fall. It starts with one person deciding to live a life worth imitating. Not a perfect life, a real life. A life aligned with values so strong they outlast flesh and bone. Integrity doesn't come from rules. It comes from watching someone refuse to cut corners, even when the cost is high. Kindness doesn't come from punishment. It comes from feeling safe in someone's presence, from seeing them soften even when they are right and the other is wrong. Discipline doesn't come from shouting. It grows in a home where routines are honored, promises are kept, and effort is celebrated more than outcomes. If we want to raise a generation that doesn't fold under pressure, that doesn't sell their soul for popularity, that doesn't break at the first sign of hardship, we must become the example of what resilience looks like in action. When your child sees you keep going despite fear, they learn courage. When they watch you stay calm under fire, they learn emotional control. When they see you choose what is right over what is easy, they learn how to build a backbone, not just a resume. And yes, there will be moments when you feel like they aren't listening, when they roll their eyes, slam the door, rebel against everything you stand for. But do not be discouraged. Even in their defiance, your consistency is building a structure inside them. They will remember your words when life pushes them to the edge. They will recall your example when temptation tries to lure them away. They will carry your values even when they can't articulate them yet. That's the power of a living legacy. To pass on values, you must first examine your own. Are they aligned with what you preach? Do you live a life you'd want your children to replicate? If you don't, change begins now. Not with a sermon, but with a shift in behavior. Begin where it matters most, at the dinner table, during the car ride, in the way you treat the waitress, the janitor, the neighbor whose politics are different from yours. Every interaction is a class in humanity. Every response is a blueprint for how they'll face the world. Your home is a school, even if you never intended it to be. Your tone is the teacher, your actions, the curriculum. In the final exam, it comes in the form of the person your child becomes. Will they be someone who values people over possessions? Will they stand when standing is hard? Will they speak truth with love and act in love with truth? That depends not on the speeches you give, but on the habits you keep when no one is watching. We must remember that values are not about perfection. They are about direction. It's okay to fail in front of your children, as long as you let them see the comeback. Let them see the apology. Let them see the lesson learned. In fact, those may be the most powerful values of all. The value of growth, of humility, of owning your story. Because when they see you rise after falling, they learn it's okay to be human, as long as you rise. There's no inheritance more valuable than a name associated with goodness. Your family name, your heritage, your legacy, it's shaped not by your achievements, but by the integrity behind them. Don't just strive to raise successful kids. Strive to raise good people. People who walk into rooms and bring light. People who defend the voiceless. People who create safety wherever they go. That begins not with rules, but with roots. Deep roots of love, truth, compassion, and discipline. So speak less, live more, preach less, practice more. Because long after you're gone, they'll forget the lectures. But they will never forget how it felt to be loved by you, how it felt to be believed in by you, how it felt to be challenged, uplifted, held accountable, and deeply valued. And in that memory, your values live on. This is how you pass them on, not in one grand moment, but in the million small ones. They will forget the words you screamed in anger, but they will remember the times you knelt to their level and listened. They will forget the toys, the gadgets, the countless distractions we thought they needed, but they will remember the way you showed up when they were heartbroken, uncertain, or lost. Because values are never taught with noise. They're transmitted through presence, through stillness, through the quiet conviction of a life consistently lived in service of something greater than self. You can't outsource this. No book can do it for you, no system, no school. It has to come from the daily discipline of your example. This generation is flooded with information, but starving for wisdom. They scroll through infinite opinions, but lack anchors. They are told they can be anything, but no one tells them what is worth being. That's where you come in, not as a perfect guide, but as a flawed human who dares to live with integrity anyway. You become their compass when they lose their way, not by giving all the answers, but by living in such a way that your life itself becomes a point of reference. They need to see you navigate your struggles without compromising your soul. They need to watch you handle power without pride and success without arrogance. They need to witness you choosing people over platforms and purpose over popularity. You pass on values by slowing down, by being fully present in the moment when everything around you says to hurry, by making time for dinner without phones, for walks without distraction, for conversations that are raw, uncomfortable, and necessary. You pass them on by choosing discomfort today so they don't suffer disconnection tomorrow. You model honesty by admitting when you were wrong. You model forgiveness by letting go when it's hardest. You model service by loving people who cannot repay you. This is how generations are shaped, not by ease, but by example. And when the world outside tries to rewrite truth into convenience, your steadiness becomes their sanctuary. When they face betrayal, your loyalty teaches them what real commitment looks like. When they doubt themselves, your voice, once spoken with love and belief, echoes louder than their fear. That is how values are passed on. Not once, but over and over, in every small interaction that says, you matter, you are seen, and you are capable of becoming something great, not because the world says so, but because you've seen it live before you. There will be times when you feel like giving up, when your own pain, your own past, your own brokenness screams louder than your purpose. But let this be your reminder. Someone is watching you and learning how to face life based on how you carry yours. The strength you show today could be the reason they don't collapse tomorrow. The honesty you show in failure might be the reason they tell the truth when it costs them something. The love you give without condition might teach them that they too are worthy of love, even when they fall short. We talk often about changing the world, but the world is nothing more than homes multiplied. Families are nations in seed form. And if we want a world with justice, compassion, resilience, and humility, it begins with the values we breathe into our children. Daily, faithfully, even when we're exhausted. It begins with fathers showing up, not just providing. With mothers believing in their children, even when society writes them off. With mentors living their truth out loud. With teachers planting seeds they may never see bloom. It begins when you stop chasing perfection and start living with intention. Because what you do today matters. Your calm voice in the storm, your truth in a culture addicted to lies, your respect in a world of selfishness. All of it is a ripple, and ripples become waves, and waves can shape continents. You are not just raising children, you are sending forth future generations. What they build tomorrow is rooted in what you cultivate now. And one day, when you're long gone, they will speak of you, not for the size of your house or the fame you gained, but for the depth of your character. They'll tell their children stories of your strength, your kindness, your unwavering faith when times were dark. And in those moments, your values will live again. In every act of courage they choose, in every truth they stand for, in every soul they touch with love. You will live again, not in photographs, but in the fabric of who they are. So live today with the end in mind, not in fear of death, but in reverence of legacy. Because what we leave behind is not just a memory, it's a path, a direction, a standard. And whether you are a parent or not, whether you mentor one or many, the truth remains. The future is watching, and what they become depends on what we are willing to be. This is how we pass on values. Through lives lived with relentless integrity, through quiet sacrifice, through bold compassion, through truth. Live not just in public, but especially in private. You may never receive an award for it. No applause may come. But in the quiet hearts of those who walk behind you, you are building something eternal. So rise each day with this sacred mission. Be the living example of what matters. And trust this. Long after the world forgets your name, your values will still be changing lives. There will come a time when the ones you raised, mentored, or simply influenced from a distance will stand at a crossroads, facing decisions you may never hear about, fighting battles you will never witness. And in that sacred moment, they will call upon something deep within. Not your advice, not your money, not your accolades, but the internal compass they inherited from watching how you move through life. They will remember not what you demanded of them, but what you demanded of yourself. They will recall the strength with which you carried your burdens, the tenderness with which you offered grace, and the silence with which you endured what others would have screamed about. That is the imprint of values. It is unseen, yet unshakable. And what if you're afraid you haven't done enough? What if you fear that your past failures have tarnished the legacy you're trying to build? Then hear this. The most powerful value you can pass on is the courage to transform. Growth itself is a sacred inheritance. When they see you confront your flaws with honesty, when they witness you take accountability and choose a better path, that in itself is a miracle they can follow. Because they will face their own demons. And in those moments, they won't need a perfect role model. They'll need a real one. Someone who proved that falling isn't the end. Someone who showed that redemption isn't just possible, it's beautiful. You teach them resilience, not by pretending you're unbreakable, but by letting them see you rebuild. You teach them kindness, not by shielding them from cruelty, but by helping them choose love when the world offers hate. You teach them truth, not by punishing lies, but by showing how truth liberates even when it hurts. And most of all, you teach them the value of time. Because once it's gone, nothing can replace it. Every hour you give them, every moment you truly see them, every laugh, every shared silence, it becomes part of who they are. Too many chase legacies written in stone and status, but the true ones are etched in soul. They are built in the way your eyes lit up when they walked in the room, in the way you made time when it was inconvenient, in the way you put their well-being above your ego. That becomes their foundation, and no storm can wash away a foundation built on love, truth, consistency, and faith. These are the things that echo beyond your life. And even if they seem to stray, even if they rebel or lose their way for a season, never forget, values rooted in love are never wasted. They may drift, but they carry your voice within them. Your example becomes their lighthouse when the waves of life grow violent. And when the time comes, they will return, not to your rules, but to your example. Because love never truly leaves. It waits patiently in their memory, in their conscience, in their bones. So what should you focus on now today, while there's still time? Focus on presence over performance, on listening more than lecturing, on patience when chaos knocks, on showing grace when they least deserve it. That's when values take root. Not when it's easy, but when it's hard. You are not molding robots. You are shaping souls. And souls do not respond to perfection. They respond to authenticity, to humility, to love that doesn't break when tested. And if you are someone who never received this kind of legacy, if you were raised in trauma, in absence, in pain, then let today be the moment where the cycle ends. You get to start a new chapter. You get to build something your past couldn't offer. You get to be the one who plants what you never got to harvest. And yes, it's hard, but nothing is more powerful than someone who chooses to become what they never saw. That kind of choice, made again and again in the dark, can light a path for generations to come. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to be wealthy. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up with integrity, with truth, with love, because that is the value that multiplies. That is the seed that grows trees of character in those who follow. And someday, they will pass those seeds forward too. Not because you forced them, but because you lived it so beautifully they couldn't forget. So breathe deep and carry on. You are not just living for yourself. You are crafting a legacy. One that will never fit into a bank account or a trophy shelf. One that lives in the eyes of a child who knows they're safe. One that thrives in the heart of a young adult who refuses to quit. One that grows in the spirit of someone who chooses love over fear because once, long ago, they saw you do the same. And that is the kind of legacy this world needs. Not louder voices, but deeper roots. Not more influencers, but more examples. And if you dare to become one, then long after your name is forgotten in history books, it will still be spoken in dinner tables, in bedtime stories, in moments of quiet reflection. Because you didn't just pass on your DNA, you passed on your values. And that changes everything. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories and life-changing insights. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a moment that could inspire your journey. Your support means everything. Thank you for being part of this community.